Welcome back to everybody. I've had a pretty good long break off. Got my surgery over with, getting healed back up, and I'm getting ready to be back in the shop. I've been taking it easy for a while, but anyway, we're gonna do a little bit of work on the Mustang today, or as much as I feel like doing, so let's get after it. So in our last video, I think I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while, so I'm trying to get all this back in my brain, what I did last. So the last time that I was tinkering with this on camera, I'm pretty sure it would not crank. So let's say past that, fast forward a week or so, I come up here before my surgery and I was like, I need to get my car in front of the shop. Well, I jumped in it and it popped right off. So I still don't know what that intermittent cranking issue is, but today I found a definite issue, we'll say. I don't know if the PATS is causing it or it's some other issue, but it's definitely a starting issue. So I have a spark tester and I put it between the coil and the spark plug, and we have no spark. All right, so obviously I can hear the fuel pump kicking on, so that tells me we're at least getting fuel, and I can pop the Schrader valve and fuel squirts out of it. So what I'm thinking is this may come down to a spark issue. So it could be the PATS still causing problems, or we may just have something else going on with the ignition system. So that's what I just kind of wanted to do, a overview of kind of where we're at and where I'm going to be going. So what I'm going to do next is hook the laptop up on it, and we are going to watch the crankshaft position. We're actually going to see if we're getting signal while the engine's turning over, and that can go two ways. One, if we're getting no signal, then bam, we've got our problem pinned down pretty tight. It could be the sensor or it could be the wiring, which that is a shielded circuit. So anywho, we'll get into that later. But the first thing we're going to do is get the laptop hooked up. So let's get on that. All right, we're getting our forescan hooked up to kind of give us a little look-see at what's going on. So let's see, first we've got some instrument cluster codes. We've got a few in the PCM, some in the RC, well, the restraint control modules, these seats. I think because the seat belts are different, so have a couple of B codes. I'm not too worried about those. So what I'm wanting to do now is let's go to data. Let me find where it is. Where am I at? There we go. Well, I'm trying to get hooked up. My goodness, it's like I've already forgot how to work all this. Man, and just so y'all know, it has been scorching the last 3 weeks. I think it's been hot really everywhere, but it's like the heat index has been like 110 here, with humidity's probably in the 60s and 70s. So I mean, it's just like you can't even breathe outside. Literally this time of day, if you walk outside here, you can literally see like a fog or a mist, that it is so hot. Well, I'm trying to find this. So let me cut the camera off and let me see if I can get all this situated, and then well, I found our PIDs finally. It was a little weird finding them in Forescan, but I found them. So the two I have picked so far, I'm just sitting here running through them to see exactly what I want to look at. I've got our RPM selected, and I've got V-Power. So I want to see what those at. Then they've got the profile ignition pickup. I'm going to do that just because I want to see it. I don't need to look at any O2 sensors right now. Nothing else is really need to know, simply because I have no spark. So I want to know why I have no spark, especially since it's intermittent. I don't know exactly what could be causing that. So I do have it has a couple of fuel pressure. It says fuel rail pressure, because I know this car actually has a sensor on it. So yeah, that'll work. And I got those. Camshaft position won't have anything to do with it. Alright, so I've got RPM, V-Power, PIP, fuel rail pressure, voltage, and fuel rail pressure, kilopascals. That's just so I can see when the fuel pump kicks on exactly how much pressure I've got. So that was my reasoning behind that. So let's see what these say. So I'm gonna watch my RPM, which my V-Power ain't. Okay, here we are. We've got them, but I don't know if it's reading. Let's see. So I don't know if you can hear that. I hope you could. Like, the fuel pump really, it comes on and it sounds pretty fresh. So I'm going to try to crank it, and I'm going to watch this, and then I'll see what it does. And if it does anything, I'll turn it so the camera can see it. See, that's strange. It's not doing anything on my laptop either. That is weird. Oh, here we go. I got it now. I got it. We may have found our culprit. Check out what this laptop does. That's old school, baby. There we go. All right, so let me get this around where you can see it. I'm gonna crank this, and I want you to watch this very top line right here. My camera's in the shot. That red line, that's what we're looking at. So I'm gonna crank it, and I want y'all to watch it and tell me what it does, okay? So if y'all saw what I saw, that showed 0 RPM. So let me clear all this out. close that. Whew, what a dinger. All right, so that showed 0 RPM cranking. On most systems, they'll vary between vehicle to vehicle, but on this particular one, I know a lot of Fords are this way. It's got to see like, I think it's close to 300 RPM. It may be, give or take, you know, I don't know, but somewhere in the 300 RPM range before it'll actually fire off. So if this thing is not seeing crank signal, it's not going to crank, because the crank signal is how it fires and, you know, keeps it in time and everything. So whew, that makes me feel better. So what I've got to do, I've got to check voltage going to the crank sensor, and also just like connectivity, like pin fit and that type of stuff, to make sure the pins ain't spread out. Because well, I know I've said in previous videos, this car has had an engine put in it before I bought it. So, and I mean, I'm not dogging anybody. Like, anybody that can put an engine in one of these cars ain't, you know, they would know what they're doing. But if it was just slapped together, that's what I don't know. If they pulled on wires or something, they could have pulled a pin out. So that's what I'm going to go over next. So we'll regroup, and then we'll go from there. But hey, we found something, finally. Something concrete that we can work with. Okie dokie. I got our crank sensor unplugged. That is this connector. I just went ahead and unplugged it off camera because it is it's a little difficult to get to. So whoops, got a quick kick in the camera. So this thing, I hope you can see it. It is disgusting. So let me, you see my finger's pretty clean, my thumb. Now watch this. Look at that. It has a lot of oil and such in it. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to clean it with a little bit of just some brake cleaner. I know it's a touch abrasive for this kind of stuff. I wish I had some electronics cleaner, but I just don't have it right now. So I'm going to take a little bit of brake cleaner, and I'm just going to, just like that, just a little clean. And I'm going to take it, I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to clean or do the same thing to the back side, just to kind of knock all that disgustingness off of it, and even the sides, just to get it clean. Now, I know it's going to be hard for the camera. It's just I do not have a very good camera angle for this. I'm gonna give that just a second to dry. So just from looking at it, let me swap pins here. Just from looking at it, the pins look fairly well. When I pull on them, the pins don't move. So I really feel like we've got a pretty good connection at this point. I don't see any splices up even to this point, so I think we're good on that too. I really think, well, I say that, I really think it's going to come down to either a bad crank signal, sensor signal, or that wiring. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check for power at that that connector. So I've got this little, it's just a little terminal for checking. So I'm going to cut the ignition on, and we're going to check for power. That shouldn't take but literally 5 seconds. Not literally, but it'll take just a minute. All right, ignition is on. Let me hook up. I should have had this done already. I'm just hooking up my test light to ground, and it's working. Then I'm going to take this little pin tester, and I used to always just put my test light down the side of it. Now this is so you don't spread your pins apart and get those pin fitment issues like I was talking about. So we're just going to check both sides of this And that ain't good. Which, honestly, well, no, with the ignition on, we should have power. So, let me make sure my ground is good on my battery. And see, this may be another issue. Let me check it up here again. So, okay, my test light is working, but check that out. No power on either side of that. Okay, so what that's telling me is that it's not the crank sensor itself. We're going to have a wiring monkey, probably. Not a monkey, but a wiring issue. So those wires run, let me see what I can see. So the only other thing that's hooked on, if I can get my hand down in here, is, well, let me turn the ignition back off. That way we don't have live circuits out there. Oh. There's one thing that works on this consistent. It's that dinger on the ignition. Now, I unplugged the air conditioner compressor so I can pull all of this up through here. Hey, we should have done that first. All right. So I saw this from down below. Now this right here is some pretty crappy looking tape. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take all that loose and make sure we don't have a pinched wire, because I can rewrap wire loom. Because I can't tell if somebody has been in here messing with it or if it's been crushed. It looks like somebody's been in here. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's take all of this crap off. Excuse my language. There we go. There's one. Because see, this is like regular electrical tape, and this is the factory stuff. It has like a fabric. I guess I need to check the camera and make sure y'all can see. Yeah, I think we're good. Let me back it up just a hair. But anyway, somebody's definitely been in here with electrical tape, which ain't, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it always makes me raise an eyebrow when I see this kind of stuff. Much like that stereo wiring that I ripped out, because usually when stuff looks a little funny, something's been tinkered with, we'll say. Oh yeah, well, no. I started to say there it is. But all right, so this, you see that silver? That's like a silver tape. All of your shielded circuits on these Fords will have that. That means you are not supposed to splice into these wires. And this doesn't look like it's been spliced into, but it has. So I just kind of peeked through that. Let me see if I can get that to where you can see it. That's really tough. Let me zoom in. Or if you can see that poking through, that is a blue and white wire. And up here, that kind of looks blue. I think that's the same color wire, but it kind of has a green tint to it. So I just don't know. I'm gonna peel it back just a little bit to make sure. Okay, yeah, that's just fading on the wire. Okay, so the next thing, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this back up, because all this is, it's just like it's like tin foil. I can't remember. I used to know. I can't remember exactly why they put this shielding on here. I don't remember if it has something to do with like the reference signal that's coming out of that. But all the wiring actually still looks factory. Like, I mean, I can tell it's had somebody in here monkeying with stuff, but it's not like it's just hacked together. Sometimes that loom can be a little tedious to get back on. I actually used to do that at a job I had. I built wiring harnesses for vehicles, and that the small loom it's the hardest to get on. All right, got that back on. Well, we definitely don't have power. So I'm gonna shut the camera off and I'm gonna get the owner's manual and go through the fuses and see if I can figure out which fuse or fuses may power the crankshaft position wire. Okay, I've got our crank sensor out. One thing I was going to point out is chipped here, right on the edge. That don't necessarily mean anything bad has happened, but knowing the background of this car, one of the fellas that owned it, he worked at AutoZone. And like I said, I'm not trying to bash anybody or any business or anything, but I have put electronics on from anywhere. It can be any manufacturer, I don't give a crap who it is, and they can be bad. So I'm thinking we have an intermittent issue with this, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna test it. So I'm gonna get the camera turned around, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. Okey McSmokey. First thing. Oh, sorry, if you can hear me right now, that's probably a good thing. I think in my last little segment I filmed, my microphone died, so here we are. So if you couldn't hear anything in that last segment, I'm sorry. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set my meter to 200 ohms. Now this is just a little cheap meter. I picked it up, I think, at the Ace Hardware. And all we're going to do is jump across these two terminals, if my hands will let me. That's the problem. The older I get, the more my body parts don't want to work. Now look at that. 0. Not 0, that's like open. This is what you want to see when you own something out. That's a 0. That's a good connectivity. This, if this was a high dollar meter and you did this, it would say OL, which means open loop. So I think we have found our intermittent cranking issue. I figure the windings inside this housing is probably starting to go bad. So here's what I'm going to try to do. First thing I'm going to do is flip this camera around. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to run out to that navigator. It's looking like it's going to rain, so I'm going to do it off camera. I'm just going to run out there and try to buzz that one out. I may not be able to get it out because this one turned into a little bit more of a project than I was hoping. I had to end up pulling the air conditioner compressor loose from the engine. That way I could slide it back and get that crank signal or crank sensor out. So I'm gonna run over there to the navigator, pull it out of our 5.4. I'm going to put that sensor back in it because I do not want an open hole on that engine, because I don't want rust and condensation and all that junk to start. So let me run and do that, and I'll be back with the next one, and we will test it before I put it on that car. That way we'll know whether it's going to work or not before we do anything, and whether I need to get a new sensor. So y'all hang out, get you a cup of coffee, I'll be right back. All right, we're back. So this, changed my shirt. So the navigator, I run into the same problem on that crank sensor. We had air conditioner compressor in the way. Well, that frame is a lot bigger than the Mustang frame, and I was like, I don't want to get in there and just deal with that tonight. So we made an O'Reilly's run. Now, I'm gonna flip the camera around and I'm gonna show you what I was talking about, ohming it out to see if it's good. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ohm this old one. I ohmed it already and something weird happened, but we'll see. So I ended up turning my meter up to 2,000 ohms, and I actually got a reading off of the old one. So let me see if I can get it to do this again. So see, we're getting a reading. It's showing 450, 500 volts. So now let me show you this new one, and then I'll explain hopefully what we're seeing. All right, see, that one went to 0. Well, I'm sorry, I had the leads touching. So this one is ohming out about 380 to 375. Can't keep my daggum hands still. All right, 379. That's the reading I have gotten every time I've done this. So what I'm thinking is that if I put it back in, the Mustang would crank. That's our intermittent deal that's going on. Because the first time I checked this, it would jump back and forth, like 1,500 to 450 or whatever. It's jumping and being crazy, and then it would go to open loop again. But this one is staying stable, this new one. So it didn't cost a lot of money, so I'm glad I went ahead and just bit the bullet and got that. So let's throw it on and see what this is going to do. Well, here we are. I'm soaking wet. You can probably hear it. It ain't because of sweat. I had a rainstorm blow in on me, which is great because we needed some rain. So I got the new sensor on, and I just got it on when it started to rain. So I pulled all my tools off the car and got inside. If I get enough slack, I'm gonna run out and hook the laptop up to it and see if we're getting cranking RPM. So I'll see y'all in just a few minutes. Well, I'm back. I made it to the car. It's raining pretty good. You can probably hear that thunder, but let me make sure my mic's still charged up. But we're getting 4Scan hooked back up. I've got the ignition on. I didn't want to just try to crank it. I wanted to document everything. So we're going to go back and watch the RPM signal and see what it's going to do. So everybody watch together. Actually, let me flip the camera in, that way we can. All right, I've got the camera flipped and we're watching RPM signal, the red line. This is our fuel rail pressure, and fuel rail pressure kilopascals are our pressure. This is our PIP. Then the green is V-power and the red is RPM signal. So we've got neutral. We're looking for that. Oh, our PIP done something. But anyway, we're looking for that red to go up. Hey, what about that? Check that out. We've got crankage. We've got runnage. Still got a little theft light. We're in neutral. Look at that. Our PIP's working. That means that's our pickup. What was that? I can't even remember what it stands for. But anyway, our V-power's up good. Our fuel pressure's up good. Looks like we're averaging, what is it saying? Almost 300 kilopascals. We've got 2.5 to 3 volts on our fuel rail voltage, and everything's looking good. Everything's looking good. And check this out. I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but our theft light went off. So what do y'all think about that? If you see this video, let me know in the comments. But this is a good day. So I'll see y'all back in the shop. Well, everybody, I don't know about y'all, but I would call this a good video. We've been chasing that intermittent no start for, golly, for how long? I mean, it's been several months now, and me thinking the whole time it was the Pats. So here's what I want everybody to take this away. If there's nothing else you've got from the car videos, just always remember, just because something looks a certain way, it may not always mean it's that way. So you really have to pay attention to your systems and what they're doing, because the whole time I was chasing the Pats thinking there was an issue there, even went as far as to get 2 new keys and program them. But the whole time we had a crank sensor that just ohmed good when I took it off. Well, it ohmed bad when I took it off, but it ohmed good right before I put that new one on there. But I already knew something had to be up with the ignition system. So what it was doing, these coils, if I had to guess, them being intermittent is probably related to weather. All right, so like I said, the heat index here the last almost month has been like 110, like 105 plus. So I mean, it's just been miserable hot. So I took this sensor off, brought it in my shop, and laid it on my car that's sitting in here. So it's had a chance to really cool off. But I guarantee you, if I took this outside, or I mean, it's raining like crazy right now, but say if tomorrow it's 100 degrees, and I may actually do this as a TikTok and a short or something, but I need to lay this outside in the 100-degree weather for a day, come back and then test it and see what it says. So just always be aware. I know stuff like this can get complicated, but this is my bread and butter. I love chasing this stuff down. It's frustrating sometimes, but I love doing it. And that was a win. So if y'all stuck with me this long, I appreciate it. We've got our first big hurdle jumped on the Mustang, on the Snake. I'm excited. Our next hurdle is going to be the transmission. With that being said, it's definitely going to be a couple of more weeks before I even start that, because I'm still recovering from my neck surgery here. So I can't really, I don't want to do any strenuous work right now, but after that we're going to get the transmission put in it and get it drivable. That way I can take my wife out on a date. We can relive a little bit of our youth from the early 2000s. But like I said, if you've stuck with me this long, I really appreciate it. If you don't care, hit that subscribe button, give me a like. That tells me who's watching these, and you know, it tells me what I need to be putting out. We've got some more bathroom updates coming. Like I said, this surgery of mine's just thrown everything kind of off and behind for a little while, but there's more stuff coming. I'm going to get back to weekly videos now that I'm recovered and can actually do some stuff. But like I said, y'all give me a like on this video if you have enjoyed it, and we'll see y'all in the next one.